Okay, so it's been a while. I wanted to give an update as to kind of where things are at and the future of the easy multiplayer system. Um, so one thing that I've done recently is I went ahead and I set up a Patreon. If you like what I do and you want to support me in my work, go ahead and join up on Patreon. It's pretty small right now as I just got it started, but I went ahead and I posted one of the projects that I worked on um, during this break. And let's show off that project a little bit. So this is, Board Game Builder. One thing I did is I built it originally for my friends and family, but it allows you to play basically board games or card games virtually with anybody around the world, as long as they have your same definition files. Um, and so it's basically a way to host those game definitions and play them. And as long as you have all of the images and the figures, then you can be able to build a definition. So, like for example, if I wanted to make a brand new board game, and here's some of the board games and card games that I have done personally. Um, but we can place it here. I'll call it test definition, and we can design a game. And there's lots of different options for you to do here, but as you can see, we can design our own dice from scratch, and we can save it. So I can come here to, let's do this one that's better. I could do a new image. uh let's see, we can load that image, and we could see it gets loaded on here. So we could build out our own specular map if we wanted to, our own normal map, all that fun stuff. Um, we could do that for tiles. We can do that for individual card types. We can also import our own figures, and so we can generate our own asset bundles and import those. You can generate your own booklets and have them be able to turn pages and view all those booklets there, tokens, decks, skyboxes, and you can design the tabletop. So lots of things we can do there. So if we look at one that has already been made, let's see here. We can go to projects, game definitions, and we can search in here, and let's look at Betrayal at House on the Hill, one of my personal favorite board games. And say Wes. I'm going to select a token or an icon. I'm going to host a game, and this is one of the tables that I have generated. So I can, kind of come in here and we can, move figures around. We can rotate them, all that fun stuff, and we can even, draw decks here. It also supports multiple hand types, so we can switch our hand types over to lockets. You got your classic card system where you can drag and play, or you can play cards face down, face up, all that fun stuff. You can play tokens here. So if I drag a token in, you can see that it is ready to go there. Figures, if there was additional figures that you wanted to play. And of course, everything here is persistent. So if someone was to join this later in the game, they could play. If I want to roll some dice, um, all that fun stuff, and that should pop up here after a little bit, saying here's all the dice that I have rolled. And we can remove those. But basically, it's the concept of way you can build your own card game or deck builder game or anything you want really, and be able to play it with your friends. And so that's pretty nice. And of course, we got skyboxes that you can customize as well. And we can place our own custom markers on the table to indicate, what side of the board we're on. And this supports, Linux, Windows, Mac, and Android right now. I could build one for iOS, but I just haven't done that. So all of these are available for download on my Patreon. So you can download this. All downloads are available at the $10 tier, the $5 tier. $10 tier, you get priority support on my Discord channel. You'll gain access to a custom Patreon supporters channel. Not much is on there at the moment, as I'm still building a lot of this out. So that's kind of the fun, new, exciting news in terms of where things are going. So the next thing is it's not going to be super exciting for a lot of people, but it's something that I think has been in the cards for quite some time. And one of that is I'm actually going to discontinue development on the Easy Multiplayer in Vector system. Now, with that said, what do I mean by that? I'm not going to completely just drop it, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to no longer be updating to the current version of Invector. Now, uh, that means I'm going to be providing bug fixes for 2.6.3 compatibility versions. And there's kind of a lot of reasons to this. It's been in the cards for a long time. This was a system I built a long time ago. Again, same situation for friends and family. Um, and uh, it's kind of blew up from there. And I built it out for the community, and I did the best I could. I had a lot of big plans for it, but every time Invector would release something, it would break a serious amount of work that I had done, and it would set me back sometimes months, months worth of work that I would do, and I'd have to redo a lot of it. And then the same situation would happen with Mirror. If Mirror, they don't keep their updates consistent. They tend to break a lot of things with their updates. And that's exactly what happened. They released another update that completely shattered compatibility with a lot of the things that we're doing. So I was getting basically attacked from two different angles here. I'm trying to build out something bleeding edge, something new, um, and I can't continue to push on it when I'm having to completely step back every time somebody else updates one of their platforms. So what can I do? So I decided to take a step back, work on this side project, and build it out for fun. A lot of it for mental health. And then, but the thing is, I still wanted to have um, a great controller. This is something that it's been a dream of mine. Building this out, building a AAA quality multiplayer controller. Um, but I just couldn't do it when anytime any of these packages were getting updated, I would lose potentially a month worth of work. And my time is very limited. I don't do this in full time. Hopefully, with Patreon, a lot of this will give me time to be able to do a lot of these things more. But as it stands right now, between the pirating of the asset and the updating and the breaking changes and inconsistent updates, maintaining this would be a lifetime job. It would require a lifetime worth of work, and that's just not something I'm willing to commit to. So I decided to switch over to Fishnet. Fishnet has so if we go to Fishnet here, Fishnet docs, and as you see, they have a no break promise, and they do have long-term support. So that solves one of my problems right there. Is if I was to switch over to Fishnet, it would solve one of those no break issues. Well, then that brings the other, so that takes care of the mirror problem. Well, what am I going to do about Invector? Invector, they do release updates pretty frequently, and every time an update is released, name changes are done, functions are removed, functionality is changed, and it's devastating for me. So I am announcing as of today that I am starting development on my own character controller. So let's talk about that a little bit. So let's open up Unity here. And I decided when I was playing around with this, I was trying to figure out the names to go with this. So you can see it's called Quantum Player Controller. After doing a little bit of research on Unity asset store, there's already quite a few quantum assets, and so I probably won't end up going with that name. But for now, that's kind of what it's called. So I started with the classic third-person controller provided by Unity. So why did I do that? Well, Unity does a lot of things right. One of those being they're using the Cinemachine camera, which offers the ability to set up multiple different virtual cameras and smoothly transition between them without affecting the main camera here, which is super nice. The other super nice thing is they actually use the new Unity input system, which means you no longer have to do an update loop to constantly check for these updates. You can do simple message events, which means it's actually going to save a lot of bandwidth and a lot of computing power. Because when you're talking about doing this over hundreds of players on a server, simply with the Invector system, that's impossible. If you look at their code, they're doing update loops all over the place, physics raycasts every frame, and it required a pretty major overhaul of their update system. And as you can see, every time they would update that, I would have to reread all of their code and re-update everything. It's just completely impossible to maintain. And the other thing is, so I took this and I developed this to be completely and 100% server authoritative with client-side prediction and lag compensation. Well, lucky for me, the Fishnet system actually has those built in, so I'm taking advantage of their client-side prediction model and the lag compensation model that they have. So if we click play, I've added a few new things in here. This is still under pretty heavy development right now, but I've added procedural animations to this. With environmental interactions, I made this completely server authoritative, meaning I'm going to execute my actions locally. The server is going to produce that locally or perform those same actions locally and then send back the results to the player. And as long as the owning player isn't cheating in any way, they won't get knocked back to their original positions. So what do I mean by some of these procedural animations? You can see he's going to start interacting with objects around himself. So this is part of that procedural animation. But also you can actually start combining this with doing fun things like it combines nice procedural animations for your characters, and here's some other procedural animations that I've added in here. But this is all starting from the basic character controller, and one thing I would like to do is actually develop this so that it will also be a first-person controller, so that you can switch between first person and third person. So that's what I'm currently working on right now. So I'll be posting updates as we go. If you want to support my progress, please support me on Patreon. Leave me messages on Patreon so that you can let me know what you find valuable in a third-person controller as I start to develop this.